Hey gamers, Rob from ZborGaming here, and today we are looking at the PP19 Bizon as far as our next weapon guide. So this is one of the SMGs in Modern Warfare, and let's go ahead and get started. So the Bizon unlocks at player level 42 and has a max level of 49. We rate it as an above average weapon. It's very good, but probably is not outclassed by the MP5 or MP7. As far as the camo requirements, they're standard for the SMG class and they're in the bottom left hand corner. The base stats, so the Bizon has a base damage range of 0 to 15 meters and it will do 55 to the head, 34 to the torso, and 30 to the limbs at that range. It has a very large magazine size at 64 bullets and a fairly fast firing rate at 660 RPMs. Very snappy ADS speed at 205 milliseconds. And as far as the reload times, it has about 1.72 second reload as far as base, and with sleight of hand you can drop that to 1.15 seconds. As far as the attachments, we have them all listed out here, as well as all of the unlock levels for all the attachments. And if you want to see this infographic in more detail, head on over to ZborGaming.com. I'll have a link in the description below where you'll not only get this infographic, it'll take you to my PP19 Bizon page, and you'll have a variety of the other slides as well. So when you're done with the video, go ahead and hit that link in the description below. I'm not going to touch too much here on these loadouts, as I have a handful of loadouts later in the video, which I'll go into more detail on. So these are some loadouts you can use here. Go ahead, check them out if you want. But right now we're going to get into those advanced statistics. So the Bizon has a handful of drop-off ranges. 15 meters, 25, and 30, and then there's damage anything over 30 meters. Now, you can see here as far as the damage, I'll get into the damage stats here on another slide. But this is a one-shot kill in hardcore up to 15 meters and 2 for anything over. Other stats that are important here, movement speed at 97%, which is quite fast, and a very good strafe speed at 58%. The recoil pattern is up and to the right, and you will see that here in a variety of slides that I have on recoil control coming up for the Bizon. And lastly, your sprint out times are 133 milliseconds for your standard and 217 for your super sprint out. As far as some of the specialized attachments, we have 3 barrels on the Bizon, the steel, the polygonal, and the aluminum barrel. We have the skeleton stock and the 84 round helical mags. So I'm not going to touch on these a lot now because I talk about each of the barrels as well as the stock later on. But do note that with the 84 round mags, it does say it affects your ADS speed, but there really isn't a whole lot of change there. It's very, very minimal. And you will lose about 2% on your movement speed with that. So, moving on here, as far as all the ADS speeds, again, it has that quite fast 205 millisecond ADS speed. And if you're wondering where I got that from, I actually pulled it off of the Hey Potato Cod stat tracker from Mutant Media. So go ahead and check them out. They've got a lot of great content on their site as well as their app. So the ADS speed here, you can see there's a couple attachments that help your ADS speed. Stipple grip tape, the 8.7-inch aluminum barrel, the tack laser, as well as a handful of those stocks, the no stock, the skeleton, and the close quarter stock. The attachments in yellow, all of your muzzles, as well as your polygonal, your 84 round mag, and your reflex and hollow sights, really have pretty minimal impact, either one frame or less to your ADS speed. If you're really focusing on ADS speed, stay away from those higher zoom optics as well as that steel barrel. When we move into recoil and accuracy control, you can see there's not a whole lot of attachments that affect your recoil for the Bizon. There is no underbarrel attachment, and so that whole group is missing. And you can see that all the stocks in one way or another affect either your aim stability or that recoil control. So you're pretty limited here with that muzzle brake compensator, the steel barrel, and that either granulated or rubberized grip tape. So on the right, you can see that base recoil pattern where it basically drifts up and to the right. So The pattern on the right was shooting 32 bullets, and the pattern on the left shoots 64. So you can see what happens is once you get about halfway through the magazine, the pattern basically just shoots in one spot for the rest of the magazine. So what you have here is about 32 bullets and another 32 all in one spot. And you'll see that repeated in a lot of the recoil patterns. So if you look at the damage here, I took the first two damage ranges and put that here. Not going to spend a lot of time on this. I have this graphic on the PP19 page on my website. So go ahead down in that description, click on that, and you can look at that in more detail. If you're interested in Warzone, this weapon is going to take quite a lot of bullets to kill in Warzone. You can see here if you're up close, it's going to take anywhere from 5 to 9 shots. And if you're a little farther away, a fully armored target in Warzone is going to take up to 12 bullets to kill at 25 meters. So keep that in mind. This is probably not the best Warzone gun you want to be running, as it will take quite a few bullets to kill. So with that, we move into some of the recoil testing we did here on the Bizon, and I did the testing on Candor Hideout at 18 meters, and if you've seen a lot of my videos, you know this is where I do a lot of my testing, so this is probably fairly familiar. If you haven't seen a lot of the videos, go ahead and check out the weapon guide series I have on my channel. So this video here is going to show you some of how fast the gun ADS is. Now keep in mind I have the VLK optic, which does add a little bit to the ADS speed. You can see the idle sway is somewhat slow, and this is at 18 meters, which isn't too bad. So as far as that recoil, again, this is the base ammo, the 64 bullets as well as the 32. If we move to the next slide here, I've again got that base recoil pattern, and over here you have the muzzle brake and the compensator, and I tried to shoot about 32 rounds off so it was equivalent to that same height. And you can see you get a slight improvement vertically with the muzzle brake, not really, but what you do see is it tightens up that horizontal. You can see here you actually have a little less sideways drift. On the base recoil pattern, we were all the way over here, and you can see that it cut about half of that side-to-side drift out with the muzzle brake. So if you're looking for a more vertical recoil, go ahead and check out that muzzle brake. The compensator, you can see the pattern started to bottom out right in this area, and so it did cut probably 20 to 30% off the vertical recoil of the base pattern. So if you're looking for a lot of vertical recoil control, definitely look at the compensator. It helps quite a bit on the Bizon. So moving into the barrel attachments, there's a lot going on here. So the 8.7-inch steel barrel is really the only one that talks about helping with recoil control. And I still wanted to test the other barrels to see what effects they had. And you can see that they both started bottoming out right around the same place as that base recoil. So again, it sort of confirms you're not really going to get any recoil help with either of these barrels. But at the same time, they're not going to make it any worse. Even then though, with that steel barrel, you can see you're not getting a whole lot of overall improvement in the recoil, but you do get a few extra bullets right here on target. So you can see within the star we had 6 or 7 bullets all right here, whereas with the base recoil we only had about 4 or 5. So you will put more bullets on target with that 8.7-inch steel barrel. Keep in mind though, that does have a little bit of a movement speed penalty to it. One other thing you gain with that steel barrel is the additional damage range. So you'll do that base damage out to 18.5 meters, around 18 with the polygonal barrel. And the one thing that isn't mentioned on here with a lot of the stocks, and I think the Exclusive Ace just put another video out there. He's been preaching this for a while. But when you see something that says it affects your bullet velocity, it will also affect your damage range. And you can actually see that in the chart here, how it sort of drops your range, even though it doesn't mention that here. And so for most of the lightweight barrels, they lose about 15% on their damage range. So this will probably drop your damage range somewhere in the order of 12 to 13 meters. So keep that in mind even though it's not mentioned. So moving on to the grip and the nose stock. These are the last two attachments for the Bizon that have some effect on your recoil control. So the rubberized grip says it's supposed to help with your recoil. You can see her vertical. It doesn't seem to do a whole lot, but it does help. You can see here where you get this big jump to the side after that fourth or fifth bullet. And you can see with the rubberized grip, you don't get that. So it actually helps you maintain more of a vertical profile, and then it starts to drift. And you'll see that with a lot of the rubberized grip. What it really does is it helps those first initial bullets go straighter, and it doesn't kick as much. Lastly, the nose stock here. You can see it did add some overall vertical recoil. We're a little tighter right here, but again, it still jumped. On the whole, though, this is not a bad recoil profile, and I wouldn't shy away from this stock at all just because of the recoil control. So with that, I moved into a handful of loadouts. So my goal here was to try to go from the lowest recoil, highest accuracy loadout I could find, and then build a balanced loadout, build a loadout for more stealth and accuracy, and then finally put together a run and gun loadout. So that's sort of what we have here. You can see how it compares to the base recoil pattern. And so let's go ahead and take a look at these loadouts. So the first one was the low recoil accuracy build. You can see it performed quite well, had a good recoil pattern, a little bit of up to the right drift. And this takes advantage of that compensator, the 8.7-inch steel. I threw the tack laser on for the additional aim stability. And then they have that rubberized grip, as well as, in this case, I put a holographic sight on. You could not run an optic. You could add the 84 round helical mags. If you want some more mobility, you could throw on the skeleton stock or no stock. And if you want some reload, you could throw sleight of hand or maybe fully loaded. So there's a lot of varieties here. You could keep these 4 primary attachments here, and then you got some flexibility with your 5th one if you want. So moving on to the balance build, what I did here is I kept that steel in the compensator to give you some accuracy and recoil, but instead I threw on that skeleton stock. In this case I threw the granulated grip tape in, and then threw sleight of hand in as the perk to sort of get you a little extra reload speed, cut that down. So this build here is sort of a blend of stealth and accuracy. So what we did here is we threw that monolithic suppressor on. With the polygonal barrel, we add some additional damage range with both the suppressor and the barrel. The skeleton stock and the stipple grip tape for that mobility. And then we threw the 84 round mags on to give you plenty of ammo when you're sneaking around. Last build we put together here is our high mobility run and gun build. So this you can see has a lot of mobility. You can see that the recoil was quite a bit higher than the base, but on the whole you can still put a handful of targets here. So we put that 5 milliwatt laser as well as the stipple grip tape so that you have that that hip to fire, not only the sprint out speed but the better hip to fire spread. The aluminum barrel, the no stock, so you can get the additional mobility, the aim down sight speed, and then sleight of hand so you can reload quickly. So this is a nice high mobility run and gun setup for the Bizon. So guys, with that, that's all we have for today's video. Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, hit that thumbs up, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification. I'll have another weapon guide coming out soon. And again, thanks for watching.